This bill is a emergency rent stabilization bill, also calling it the COVID-19 Renters Relief Act. It would do a couple of things. Right now, we know 1 in 10 Americans out of work. Many renters who represent some of our most vulnerable and lowest income residents are struggling to not only stay safe and stay healthy, but also to pay rent. And what this bill will do will say that during the COVID crisis and the state of emergency issued by the governor, that a residential landlord or property owner cannot increase rent during this time and up to 30 days after the crisis is over. I think most of our landlords are doing that voluntarily, but we have received reports in our office, as I talked about today, where we're seeing increases, in some cases significant increases. So we want to make sure everyone has that protection. The bill is not a rent control bill. This is a temporary freeze of rents at their current rate, so that people can get through this crisis and get out of this crisis, right? Because people are having enough trouble paying their current rent, let alone higher rents. This is not a bill that excuses tenants from paying their current rent. You still have to pay your current rent under this bill. This does not forgive the rent. Now, we do need federal support for both landlords, property owners, and renters so that they can pay their employees in the case of the landlords, and so that renters can stay in their homes. And we're going to be pushing for federal and state support in that to do that. But this is a measure at the county level that we can say, hey, we're in an unprecedented crisis. Let's keep rents where they are for now so we can get on the other side of this. And it's particularly when we're trying to ask people to stay home, we want to make sure that in addition to getting rid of evictions and pausing evictions, that rent is paused as well, as far as the amount.
Thank you for that. You also mentioned that this is a sunset bill, that after all this is said and done, it might not still exist. Can you maybe explain that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so one of the things, just in line with what this bill is not, it's a temporary measure during this crisis that would hold rents at their current rate for residential properties. And it would sunset, which means it would no longer be law, 121 days after the state of emergency ends. And the reason we pick that is because a landlord has to, under current law, give 90 days notice if they're going to increase your rent. And so that would allow, since this bill goes into effect until 30 days after the state of emergency, you add 90, that's how you get 121.
What is the next process with this? I know you introduced it today. What happens moving forward?
So I introduced the bill today. It will have a public hearing next Tuesday. And then we will consider amendments either it looks like our council president wants to consider amendments in session next Thursday, because we've been having 2 a week now. So we'll have a public hearing next Tuesday, and then consider amendments and hopefully final passage of the bill, which would go into effect immediately next Thursday.